Hi, this is B. Charanjivara, JLN Physics AP Adjacent Pudi. In this video lesson, we will teach about the wave optics. Now let us observe the various theories of light. See, the first scientist who was expressed his opinion about the light. Actually, according to the Newton's corpuscular theory, see, every source of light, take for example a candle, every source of light which produces very speed, tiny massless particles, and the light propagates in a form of tiny massless particles with very fast, about 3 lakh kilometers per second. So these particles spread throughout around the available space. And these tiny particles are elastic in nature. So because of the elasticity, we can explain the property of reflection. Property of reflection. See, this tiny particle is compared with the elastic ball. Suppose if a ball is incident on a wall, then it rebounds, and if you draw the normal at the point of incidence, just like a ball, since this tiny particle imagined to be as an elastic ball, so when this hits with certain angle of incidence, it rebounds with the same angle of reflection. So this is how he could able to explain the property of a reflection. And similarly, property of refraction. Because of these tiny particles, they move into the medium, and these particles are being attracted by the medium. These particles are attracted by the medium, and hence they move in the, they travel in the medium. Suppose if this is air, and if this is water or glass, say some denser medium when compared with this, and if this is the denser medium, and this medium will attract the tiny particles, and they move into this medium. But according to Newton, he considered that the velocity of the light is more in denser medium than in rarer medium. This is a drawback because it is against the fact. Because this is a rarer medium, you can consider air or in vacuum. The particle moves with less velocity than the velocity in denser medium. So this is not correct. Hence, this theory was discarded. Now let us observe. And these tiny particles, when hit the retina, the different colors, the sense of different colors are due to the different sizes of the particles. So that is the main, the color discrimination is being done with the help of size of the particle. So now let us observe the different points of this Newton's corpuscular theory. These tiny massless particles are called corpuscles. These corpuscles are very tiny, elastic in nature, and they have great speed. The speed of these particles is around 3 lakh kilometers per second. So according to this theory, velocity of light in denser medium should be greater than velocity of light in air or in vacuum. So this is in reality contrary to the facts, isn't it? So this theory was, that is why this theory was discarded as an incomplete and inaccurate theory. This is incomplete and inaccurate theory. So the next scientist who applied the theory is Huygens wave theory. Now let us observe the wave theory. Now according to Huygens wave theory, the light travels in a form of wave motion, in a form of wave, and just it consists a simple harmonic disturbance. So it just not like particles explained by Newton. The light travels in a form of wave and it consists of a simple harmonic disturbance. The disturbance will move in a form of wave. Just as sound, these light waves require medium. According to Huygens wave principle, he proposed that the light require some sort of a material medium, otherwise it cannot travel. But as you know, the light all the way is coming from sun. There is no material medium in between earth and the sun for a certain area. So light even it can travel in vacuum. But as far as Huygens wave theory is concerned, he supposed that there is the existence of some sort of medium which is transparent, which is elastic in nature, which will allow the light to travel through that particular medium. But practically there is no experimental verifications for the existence of the a hypothetical material medium that is either in the throughout the universe. So this is the main drawback of this wave theory. But it is very well explained about the velocity of light in medium. According to this theory, the velocity of light is more in vacuum or in air than the denser medium. Of course, this theory rectified the mistakes committed by Newton corpuscular theory. And now, according to this theory, most of the properties are explained, and regarding the velocity is also explained, very well explained about the velocity of light in the medium. So there is no evidence for the existence of either. He proposed that there is a material medium that present in the universe that is named as ether. This ether has a property of elasticity, and this is very transparent. So by the means of this material medium, the light will travel through this. But this is not correct, because light even it can travel in vacuum. So these are the drawbacks. But of course, this could able to explain the properties of reflection, refraction, and diffraction, interference, polarization, etc. But this theory could not explain some properties like photoelectric effect or this Raman effect or Zeeman effect or Compton effect, like that. So this could able to explain only reflection, refraction, total internal reflection, and this interference, diffraction, and polarization. So according to the Maxwell's electromagnetic theory, electromagnetic wave theory, we can simply say. So actually, what is the light? Light is a combination of electromagnetic waves, the alternatively expanding and collapsing electric and as a result of that magnetic fields, these two are mutually perpendicular, transverse, and also perpendicular to the direction of wave propagation. This is what is called electromagnetic wave. Take for example, these are the three coordinates x, y, z. Then say this particular field is change in electric field. This is the expanding or collapsing. This leads to form the, say suppose this is electric field, and this leads to form the magnetic field. This leads to form the perpendicular magnetic field. Say this is the magnetic field in this direction, increasing, decreasing magnetic field. As a result of the change in magnetic field leads to produce the electric field again. So this is how. And as a result of change in this electric field again, this is magnetic field. I write here magnetic field and this is electric field. I write here there, this is magnetic field. And the change in electric field leads to again change in magnetic field like this. So this is how the expanding or collapsing fields, these two fields are mutually perpendicular. This is in direction and this is the another direction like this. This is the two, and this will be the direction of the propagation of light. This is the direction of propagation of light. This is the change in electric field. As a result of that, there is a change in magnetic field, and these two fields are perpendicular to the direction of wave propagation. So this is what is called the disturbance traveled, the change in mutually perpendicular electric field and magnetic field. They travel in the space in a vacuum. They need not require any material medium. That is why the difficulties of the proposal of either, were removed. Since according to this, they need not require any medium because it's simply the variation of charges and the variation of magnetic field. They need not require any material medium. That is why light even can travel in vacuum. Light propagated in a form of electromagnetic waves. It consists of electric and magnetic fields mutually perpendicular as well as transverse to the direction of propagation of light. The alternately expanding and collapsing magnetic and electric fields propagate in free space. Even in free space, it is vacuum with the velocity of light. So because of this, of course, the velocity of light in vacuum or in air is 3 into 10 power of 8 meters per second. The velocity of light can be written as under root mu naught epsilon naught. Permeability of free space and permittivity of free space. After calculation, you will be getting 3 into 10 power of 8 meters per second. This is what is called electromagnetic theory. Now let us observe the Planck's quantum theory, the way out of various theories of light. So this theory, the first, when proved photoelectric effect by Einstein, it must be in the form of particles and nothing else. See, very simple. When a light incident on a metal surface, it emits electrons, photoelectron. when certain energy E is equal to h nu incident, of course this must be some threshold frequency with which it incidents. Then what happened to this metal surface? This radiation incident on this surface and it knocks out the electron with certain energy of mv square. This is what is called photoelectric effect. Of course, some work will be done here, that is called work function. This is called work function. This work function, energy liberated, and the sum of the energy of the liberated electron and work function is equal to the energy of the incident radiation. So there must be a minimum energy with which it has to incident on the metal surface so that it can knock out the electron. That is what is called threshold frequency or threshold wavelength. That is the minimum energy required. That must be more than work function. Suppose if it is 4 joules and the incident radiation is 4 joules and the work function is 3 joules, then the electron liberates with 1 joule energy. So this was thought that Einstein's photoelectric effect light must be in the form of particles and nothing else. So later there are certain experiments were performed, that is Compton effect, Raman effect, etc. proved that light must consist of short packets of energy named quanta, short packets of energy called quantum. So when substance is excited, it emits light not as a continuous wave, but it throws out energy in the form of photons of definite energies depending on its wavelength. So when excited, the energy levels, when an electron is jumped from higher level to lower level, say when the electron is jumped from higher level to lower level, then what happens? It liberates or it emits energy radiation. Say this is lower energy level, this higher energy level. The difference of this will be released in a form of radiation. That radiation energy is equal to h nu. Or you can write down hc by lambda, where h is Planck's constant, c is velocity of light in vacuum, and the lambda is the wavelength of the radiation emitted. So that is what I wrote here, E is equal to hc by lambda. When a substance is excited, it emits light not as continuous wave, but it throws out energy in the form of photons of definite energies depending upon wavelength of light. Now this will support the corpuscular theory. So there are certain cases, light exhibiting particle theory, and there are certain cases it is exhibiting wave theory. So because of this Planck's quantum theory, we could able to solve all the properties of light, such as reflection, refraction. So of course you can consider these two as a particle nature or wave nature, whatever it, and diffraction, interference, polarization, Compton effect, Raman effect, photoelectric effect. These all could be able to explain with the help of this Planck's quantum theory. So now we are able to explain the light is a combination of a particle as well as wave. That is why we can consider another theory, that is a dual nature, that is the dual nature of light. Now the final theory of light is the dual nature of light, the de Broglie's dual nature of light. So we can consider the propagation of light either a particle or a wave. These two can be correlated. So these two can be related as the wavelength lambda is equal to h by mv. mv is the momentum of the particle. So when a particle can be considered as also wave. So lambda is a wave property, momentum is the particle property. These two can be written as lambda wavelength is equal to h Planck constant by the momentum of the particle. So a particle having a momentum mv can be considered and in certain experiments actually behaves as wave of wavelength lambda. That is why this lambda is equal to h by mv. When light is emitted or absorbed, it is always done in quanta or particles or photons or packets of energy in a discontinuous way. So when light is emitted or absorbed, it is always done in quanta or particles or photons or packets of energy in a discontinuous way. So this explains the particle nature. So let us not worry about whether light is particle nature or having a wave nature. That depends upon the situation. So in case of the light emitted or absorbed, emitted from a body or absorbed by a body, it is always done in a quanta or a particle or a photon or a packet of energy in a discontinuous way. These are all related to the particle theory. So in case of light propagating in a medium or in a vacuum, when light is propagated as an electromagnetic wave with a speed of 3 into 10 power of 8 meters per second in air or in vacuum, this can be considered as a wave nature of the light, particle nature of the light. When the light is interacting with the body, we can consider the particle nature. When the light is propagating in the medium, we can consider its wave nature. So all these properties of light can be able to explained with the help of dual nature of light. So light is not only, it is not having particle nature alone or wave nature alone, but it has both the properties, and these two properties are also related with the help of de Broglie's formula, that is de Broglie wavelength is equal to h by mv. See, suppose we have E is equal to h nu, this is the energy, hc by lambda, and Einstein's and mass energy equivalent E is equal to mc square. So now suppose if you correlate these two, mc square is equal to hc by lambda. So you can write down that these two can be cancelled. So what happened now? The lambda can be written as h by mc. This is what is called de Broglie's wavelength. De Broglie's wavelength. Very clear. So if momentum is 0, lambda will be infinity. If momentum is 0, that means either mass is 0 or velocity is 0. Any one of them is 0. This become infinity. So the wavelength become infinity. Means there is no wave. So as long as there is no motion or there is no mass, there is no question of wave arised. So if there is certain value of momentum, there is a certain value of wavelength. So as long as the particle is in motion, it has certain momentum. So as long as it has certain momentum, it has certain wavelength. So the light can exhibit both in a particle nature and wave nature. That is why we call it as a dual nature of light. So this explains each and every property of light. Now let us go for wavefront. Actually, suppose if we imagine a point source, this spreads the light wave in a form of wave in all the directions. Say this is a light ray. This really light ray emits in all the directions. Suppose if the point source, after some time the light might have come like this in all the way. Like this. In a three-dimensional view. Just you imagine a small ball and again big ball and again big ball. See, for example, if you imagine after some time t, if the light is traveling with velocity c, then what is the distance traveled? C multiplied by t. Suppose if you imagine that after some time this will be the wave, this will be the phase of that wave, and this will be the phase of this wave, this will be the phase of this wave, and this will be the phase of this wave. So all these points are in the same phase. All these points are in the same phase. So this is what is called wave front after this time. As long as the medium is same, the light travels with the same distance around the source. The disturbance will move around the source. Suppose if you consider all the vibrations which are in same phase. So just you imagine the locus of the particles which are in same phase after a particular time is called wavefront. Now let us see the definition. The locus of points having the same phase of oscillation. Say for example, this is one wave, this is in one direction, and this point, and this is the same distance, this is the same distance, and this is also same distance, and this is also same distance in all directions. So if you imagine the just caps of all the pens, just imagine caps of all the pens lie on this certain plane. This plane is called wavefront. At this particular position, the heads, the caps lie at the same distance from the source. So these points, end of the caps, lie on a sphere, the surface of the sphere. So this is what is called spherical wavefront. If this is a point source, then this is what is called spherical wavefront. So the light traveling from source in all the directions, this is the light ray, all the directions, the vibrations. So if you just join, you will be getting the surface of a sphere, a ball. Just imagine the surface of a ball, small ball. After some time, the surface of big ball, and after some time, again, the size of the ball increasing. So small sphere, and next sphere, and next, and so on. So this is how gradually the size of the light is spreading. The light ray is always normal to the wave. This is the wave front. So this is the wave front. So this is the locus of points having the same phase of oscillations is called a wave front. If the source is a point, then you will get the spherical wavefront. This is what is called spherical wavefront. If the source is a linear source, say if it is a linear source just like tube light, then after some time you will be getting wavefront like this, and this will be the wavefront. So this will be the wavefront. After certain time. This is what is called cylindrical wavefront. Wavefront. So if the waves are traveling for longer distance, say for this is a sphere, a spherical wavefront, after certain time, and you will be getting almost all the plane wavefront. What is this one? This is what is called plane wavefront. If the light traveled for long distance, the point source gives spherical wavefront for certain distance, and a linear source gives cylindrical wavefront for certain distance. If it expands and travels for longer distance, then what happens? It will be considered as a plane wavefront. And now let us see how the secondary wavefront can be constructed as far as the Huygens principle is concerned. Let us observe the way in which we can construct the secondary wavefront. Suppose let us consider a source which gives a wavefront like this, and every point on this wave will act as secondary source of wave. This is one source, and after some time you will imagine that this is a wavefront, and each and every point on this wavefront will act as secondary source. So this will release some wave, this will release some wave, and this will release some wave, and this is how the light will expand in the forward direction. Suppose, and the locus of all these wavelets is the secondary wavefront. This is the secondary wavefront, and again you can draw the another wavefront after some time. See, if the light is traveling with the velocity c, after some time t, I would like to draw the wavefront. Say this is source, and what you have to do now, you just take the distance r is equal to ct, and you just consider each and every point on the wavefront. There are several sources. Points will act as secondary source of disturbance, and this point will be another source of light. So one light become 10 lights, here become 100 lights, and here it become 1000 lights. This is how the light will expand in the forward direction by increasing the number of sources. So this is how the disturbance moves in the forward direction by increasing the number of sources. So I would like to take the radius and just you draw the arc here. You have to draw the arc here, and you draw the another arc here, and you draw the another arc here. This is how you have to draw the arc. This is how you have to draw the arcs. And if you join all these points, you will get another wavefront. This is also wavefront. This is how the secondary wavelet or secondary wavefront can be constructed as far as the Huygens wave principle is concerned. Each point on a wavefront acts as fresh source of disturbance. Each point on the wavefront will act as fresh source of disturbance. That means this will create, this will like this. So this is how after certain time you will get the wavefronts like this. Almost all plane wavefronts. These are all plane wavefronts. So the spherical wavefront become plane wavefront. Maybe cylindrical wavefront, after traveling long distance, it will become as plane wavefront. This become plane wavefront. Plane wavefront. And this is spherical wavefront. Spherical or cylindrical, maybe wavefront. So after traveling a longer distance, they become the plane wavefronts. So this is what is called the Huygens wave principle to construct the secondary wavelets or secondary wavefront. Now let us observe the limiting case of ray optics. So when do you discriminate the particular light considered as geometrical or what is this physical optics? Geometrical optics or physical optics. At what point we can discriminate these two? Suppose if the light is traveling through a slit, say let us assume that this is a slit, and the light is traveling through this slit with certain wavelength lambda, and this light travels parallel to each other. The light rays are parallel to each other. The light rays are parallel to each other to some extent. And if you imagine that at this particular position, if you consider that this is the source and you imagine you observe the image of this slit on the screen. This is slit and this is screen. And now what happened here? It is the light is traveling and here it is bending. Now this is bending here. Instead of going straight, the light is bending here. So what happened here? Instead of going straight, at a particular position, the light is just bending away from the straight line. So when the light is traveling here, this particular image related to ray optics. Ray optics. And this particular position, this image, is physical optics or wave optics. Physical optics. And here, if you imagine that this is the particular distance At this particular point, you will be able to see the light is bending with certain angle theta. And before that, you will see only the parallel beam of light. And beyond this point, say right here, this is, if this is AB, say this is A dash and this is B dash. At this particular point, the light started bending. So the physical optics dominates here. So the point where the ray optics or geometrical optics converts or deviates its original direction, then it is called physical optics. And this particular distance, the distance at which the ray optics, properties of ray optics become wave optics or physical optics. I write here it is wave optics. These wave optics properties changed from the point A dash B dash. Suppose the aperture of this slit is say A. The aperture of this slit is A. So this distance is A. So here you will see the bright band. You will see the bright band here. And because of the diffraction, you will see the fade or a little bit low intensity bright and dark bands like this. Say for example, this is related to one particular dark and bright band and then dark band a little bit. This is how you will see the light in a decreasing order. Say this is the central maxima. What is this? Central maxima. This is the first secondary maxima. Secondary maxima. This is also. This is secondary minima. This is minima. So this particular first central maxima has a condition that this satisfies. A theta is equal to lambda. This is the condition for central maxima. So I write here theta is equal to lambda by A. Theta is equal to lambda by A. And suppose if this is angle theta and if this is A, I consider that this distance is called Fresnel distance. This distance ZF is called Fresnel distance. Fresnel distance. Fresnel distance. Sometimes it is called Fresnel distance. This Fresnel distance is equal to almost all A by theta is equal to A by ZF. So if you compare these two equations, lambda by A is equal to A by Fresnel distance. So you can write down Fresnel distance is equal to A square by lambda. So this is the Fresnel distance we can find. So if ZF, if the distance of screen less than ZF, you will see the property of ray optics. If the screen is more than ZF at a longer distance, ZF, the distance of between the slit and the screen is more than ZF. I write here D is the distance between the slit and the screen and ZF is the Fresnel distance. If ZF is greater than or less than, more than, less than D, you will see the physical optics, concept of physical optics. So below that, if you keep here a screen somewhere here, that D is less than ZF, you will get only, if D is less than ZF, you will get only ray optics. You will see the properties of ray optics. If D is more than ZF, if D is more than ZF, you will see the property of wave optics. So this is the main condition. This is what is called Fresnel distance. So this is the distance. Beyond that, on the screen, you will see the wave optics properties, and before that, if the screen is anywhere here before Fresnel distance, you will see only the properties of ray optics. So this is what is called limiting case of ray optics. So under water circumstances, you will be able to see the properties of geometric optics and the properties of physical optics. And now let us observe the another type of properties. Now let us solve some problem basing on this limiting case of ray optics. See, estimate the distance for which ray optics is good approximation for an aperture of 4 millimeters and wavelength 400 nanometers. So what is actually, we have Fresnel distance. That Fresnel distance is given ZF equal to A square by lambda. As you know, this is the slit. The width of the slit is given, A is equal to, how much width of the slit is 4 millimeters. 4 millimeters. This is the width of the slit. So this is equal to 4 into 10 power of minus 3 meters. So what is the wavelength? What is the wavelength of the light is passing? Lambda is given 400 nanometers. 400 nanometers. That means lambda is equal to 400 into 10 power of minus 9 meters. So this is the data given. Now as you know that we have to find out the distance of ZF, where the light will lose its property of ray optics. Say when the light is bending from this point, and this particular position is called Fresnel distance. So as you know that formula is ZF equal to A square by lambda. Now let us substitute here. Fresnel distance is equal to A square, A, 4 into 10 power of minus 3 whole square by lambda, 400 into 10 power of minus 9. So this is equal to 16 into 10 power of minus 6 by 4 into 10 power of minus 7. So this is equal to 4 times 4 into, when it goes up, 10 plus 7. So this becomes 10. So you will be getting 40 meters. So what is the answer now? The Fresnel distance is 40 meters. This is the distance for which ray optics is good approximation. So this type of aperture and this type of light, the ZF is equal to 40 meters. After that, you will see the geometrical optics, and you will see the wave optic properties. Beyond this, after this, you will see the physical optics or wave optics properties. So ZF is greater than 40 meters. This leads to wave optics. If ZF is less than 40 meters, then you will see the properties of ray optics. This is the problem. Okay, students, let us go for the next lesson, the verification of reflection, refraction, total internal reflection using wave theory. Thank you.